Welcome to our video series on more advanced topics for selling on eBay. In this video, we'll begin discussing creating great-looking auction listings. In this video, I'm going to start talking you through how to create great-looking eBay listings. And I've started going through the Sell an Item on eBay process here, and I've gotten into the description area, the description box. It's quite straightforward. What you can do is just type in text here. This is my text. And you can format it. In a way, this is like Microsoft Word. You can select text, and you can apply different fonts to it, change the size, make it bold, italic, underline, left align, center align, right align, bulleted, numbered list, and so on. And actually, this is for indenting to the left or indenting to the right like that. And you can also check your spelling and apply different colors just by clicking here. And let's go with red. So that's how you use the WYSIWYG editor. And of course, WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get. So this is the editor that eBay provides, and as you can see, it's quite basic. If we click on Preview, and on Preview, your listing page pops up, and there's the description. Of course, there's not much to see, but it is formatted. Let's close that. Now, you can, if you like, choose not to use this formatting and just use plain text. Okay, let's put in something a bit more meaningful. Let's hit Return, and let's align to the left, and OK. This is my plain text. However, I do strongly recommend that you do format your text so it looks professional and is easy to read. So that's all quite straightforward. Also, if you go to HTML, view here, you can see the actual code that makes up your auction description. Now, it's not within the scope of these videos to talk you through HTML because that's an advanced topic. But a couple of great free resources that I often refer people to are: the first is htmlref.com, and it's essentially the reference section taken out of an HTML tutorial book. You can get the full book at Amazon, or you can get a reference of tags and CSS properties. Now, you don't need to learn HTML, but I do suggest that you at least learn the basics if you're going to be doing any kind of marketing or publishing online. So that's a very good resource. Another is htmldog.com. I'm not entirely sure why they called it that, but it's a great tutorial into HTML and CSS. And you can say that HTML is effectively the basic language of web pages, and CSS applies advanced formatting. For example, this little greenish-yellow bar that you see here, that's created using CSS. That's an advanced formatting functionality. So I do suggest that you go through this tutorial or purchase the HTML Ref book, and hopefully both of these resources will stay online for a good while so you can refer back to them again and again. Okay, so I won't talk you through HTML, but I will mention it and suggest that you get familiar with at least the basics. So let's go back to Standard View. However, what I'm going to discuss is how to take a piece of software that you're familiar with, for example, perhaps Front Page for creating web pages, or Dreamweaver perhaps, or there are quite a few others. Creating a great-looking page with that software, and then taking the code and just putting it into your eBay auction. So first of all, let me introduce you to a couple of free WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, web page editors or web page creators. First of all, if you go to mozilla.org and go to the products link, it used to be called something different, but they've now decided to call it SeaMonkey, which is an all-in-one internet application suite And essentially, you want the HTML editor portion of that. Even though it's free, it works very much like Front Page. Now, it's also really beyond the scope of these videos to show you how to use these pieces of software, but many of them come with documentation, tutorials, etc., and if you have Front Page, you'll probably have a detailed user guide. But I'll give you a crash course as I go through the process now anyway. Also, you may want to look at NVU, which is pronounced NView, at nvu.com, and that's another free web page editor and creator. And I've gone to download.com, and it's always worth going to download.com when you're looking for software. And I've typed in, and that's what I've typed in, create web page, but you may come up with an even more relevant keyword phrase to search for to find the best software. And it comes up with quite a few. What I recommend that you can do is change all licenses to free and filter that. And it now lists some entirely free options or software you can download and take a look at. Actually, usefully, the category is HTML editors. And if I click through to that category, and this is actually a better way to search. We're in the HTML editors category. Let's go to all the free licenses again and filter for that. And we're left with 76 options. So you may want to look through these and try them out and see which ones you like. But NView and the Mozilla HTML editor, which is part of SeaMonkey, are two great free products. Okay, now what I'm actually going to do is, I generally use Dreamweaver to create web pages, but it's quite a complicated and advanced piece of software. And if you have it already, chances are that you're already familiar with it because it's not inexpensive. And often if you spend that sort of money, you would feel particularly motivated to spend the time to get familiar with it. So I'm going to do this demonstration with the HTML editor that's part of SeaMonkey. So let me do that. Let me open up the software now. Okay, I've downloaded and installed SeaMonkey, and by default it opens up with the SeaMonkey browser. So what you want to do is go to the Window tab, and we want Composer as it's called. It's effectively called Mozilla Composer. So let's open that up. And here's how it looks. Now, if you have Front Page or Dreamweaver or any other such editor, you'll see that it looks like it's quite a familiar interface. It's worth noting that with HTML, whatever editor or web page creator you use, they're all just creating HTML. And HTML has the same features across different editors. So even though it may look a bit different, you're actually creating the same HTML functionality. And because of that, they're called the same sort of thing. For example, an HTML table is an HTML table. And whether you're using Front Page or Dreamweaver or Mozilla Composer, it's going to be called a table. So once you become familiar with the HTML terms, you'll find that they are quite standard. Obviously, it's up to you to dive into this and play around with all the different options and functionality. And it is also possible for you to buy eBay auction templates if you want. If you just do a search, you'll probably find some eBay auction templates, or perhaps there are web page templates that you could modify if you're comfortable doing that. Of course, you can also purchase a web page template and then just pay someone to make the changes for you through a site like elance.com or scriptlance.com, for example. But let's put something together very quickly. First of all, I'm going to go to Table, Insert Table. Okay, and rows and columns. Let's go with one row, one column. Width, I'm going to go with, let's make it pixels and opposed to percentage, and let's say 650 pixels. Do I want a border? No, I want an invisible border, so a border of 0 pixels. Okay, that, and there's the table. Now double-click the edge of it, and that brings up more options. Table properties, as you see. So we'll go to the Table tab, Table alignment, I want to put it in the center, and let's OK that. So what I often do with a table like this, which is actually invisible to the user, to the visitor, it acts as a container for information. I just find that it helps format it more neatly rather than having the text stretch from the left margin to the right margin of the page, which can sometimes be quite difficult to read. Now, I'm really just going to put together a dummy auction very quickly. So for example, let's say headline of auction, then we can select that text and we can center it, and let's make it bold. Okay, and what are the other options here? Paragraph format. Let's say heading 1. And you see that it applies some formatting by default. And we can change the color. Let's make it red and OK that. I want to change the font as well, so let's see format, font, and there are a lot of options. However, it's generally a good idea not to get too adventurous with fonts on web pages, because if the person viewing the web page doesn't have the font you chose, it's going to display differently, and it could sometimes look quite strange to them. So it's best to go with the standard ones, such as Helvetica, Times, or Courier. So let's go with Helvetica, or Arial as it's also called. So there's the headline of the auction, as you can see. And then let's just say paragraph 1 or auction description. ... And if I select that, right-click copy, put the cursor there, and I'm going to Control V, hold down the Control key and the V to paste, and paste and paste and paste, and there's our paragraph. And actually I'm going to copy that and press Enter a couple of times and paste again, paste our paragraph. Okay, this should say paragraph 2 now, but it's not very important. You can see how this comes together. I'm not going to touch on images right now, the graphics, because I'll come to that in the next video. This is how you can quickly throw something together. Enter a couple of times if you want to do a bulleted list. There's the bulleted list. So bullet number 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, and press Enter a couple of times to end the bulleted list. Then numbered list. Number 1, of course, number 2, number 3, and enter a couple of times to break out of the numbered list. So apart from the table, this has much the same functionality as the eBay editor, but if you really get into this, it can get a lot more advanced. For example, you could say, click here to email me. Then if I select that and go to Insert, Insert Link, okay, link location. With email links, okay, generally a web address would be something like http://www. And whatever your domain name is or whatever your address is. With an email address, you have to remove the HTTP and you do mail to : and then your address. Generally, you probably want them to email you through eBay, so you would actually link directly to the eBay Contact Me page, or Contact Me link, rather. However, just as a quick demonstration, let's say you could say support@yourdomain.com. That's if you have a domain, and I certainly suggest that you should get a domain. Alternately, of course, it could just be your address at isp.com, or whatever your ISP is, or your provider. It could even be yahoo.com or hotmail.com, AOL.com, or whatever. So let's just OK that. So that's a very quick demo of how you can start creating your web page. However, here's what's important. If we go View and HTML Source, here's the code that makes up the page. And you don't necessarily need to understand it, you just need to sort of be able to find your way around in it to do this. What you want is, you'll see there's a body tag. A tag is really a single HTML command, you could say. A tag starts with an opening bracket and ends with a closing bracket, and every tag should generally have a closing tag. So that's the opening body tag. And the closing body tag is here, you see. Bracket, / body, closing bracket. So basically what you're defining with the body tag is the body of the document, the main area of the document. So what you want to do is select everything between the body tags. So it starts here with a table tag, as you can see, and click, hold, and drag all the way down, and there's the body tag. So just before that, that's what we want to select. So it starts just after the opening body tag and ends just before the closing body tag. Right-click and copy. And let's go back to eBay. Okay, back to eBay where we're still creating our description. So now, if you're fully happy with the page you created using Composer or FrontPage or Dreamweaver or whatever you may choose, click here on HTML. Get rid of all this because you don't want this. You want to replace it with your code. So delete, and then simply right-click, paste, and there we go. And now, in theory, if I preview that, okay, here's our preview, and it looks the way I hoped it would. Headline of auction, as we formatted it, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, the bullets, the numbered list, and the link to email. Okay, let's close that. So now the code is there, and I can actually click back to the standard tab, the description view. And you see instantly it shows us what we created, almost in a WYSIWYG view, or pretty much a what you see is what you get view. So that's how, if you want to go beyond the basic eBay auction editor, really how your auctions look, how good they look. Obviously you need to keep to the rules. You can't use functionality that breaks eBay's many auction rules. But really, how your auctions look is only limited by your ability to create web pages. And you'll see on many auctions, some of them are very advanced. They're also like web pages or even websites within eBay itself. Those are good examples to look at. And of course, in any of those auctions, you can go to View, Source, and take a look at exactly how they've done it if you're comfortable looking through HTML code. Obviously, don't copy other people's work, but it's good for giving you ideas and suggestions. So your eBay auctions can start looking quite professional and getting quite advanced in that way. It may not be useful spending that time if you're only going to sell an item once, unless it's perhaps a very, very high value item. But if, for example, you have a great source for cheap Lexmark printers and you're going to be selling dozens, if not hundreds of them for as long as you could, then obviously you want to create a great auction and then just create a great description and use it again and again and again. So the time spent at the beginning is well worth it because you're going to keep reusing it. Also, as I previously mentioned, you can always hire someone to create such a template or such a page for you, and then you can just change the text, for example. You can have someone create a great-looking web page for you, and then just open it up with Composer and just change the text. Let's go back to normal view, then just change the text as you need to, rather than the entire design. So that's one option. You can buy auction templates, get started with them, play around with them, or even web page templates and get started with them. So basically, this is how it's done to create great-looking auctions. Now, we haven't touched on images, which is obviously very important, but I'll start going into that in the next video.